Today we're going to be taking a look at the Raleigh-Durham housing market, what we think is coming, and what we think is going to happen with the tariffs that are coming our way in the housing market, so stay tuned.
All right, so we're gonna be covering a lot of ground in this video. We're gonna talk about mortgage rates, we're gonna talk about home prices, we're gonna talk about national data and local data, and then we're gonna end it with tariffs. But to start the video, we're gonna dig into the mortgage rates and home prices that we're seeing because it's really the foundation of the current market conditions. So Fannie Mae just released their updated mortgage rate projections, and they're not necessarily positive. I think the days of expecting mortgage rates to dip into the fives pretty quickly are pretty much gone. So by the end of 2025, Fannie Mae expects mortgage rates to be right around 6.5, which is pretty close to where they are right now. I mean, if you look at where mortgage rates are today, right around the 6.7 mark, that's pretty close to where they expect them to be at the end of the year, which essentially means there's not going to be, to their expectation, not going to be much improvement on the mortgage rate front. And that's really the theme that we've seen over the past several years, kind of the expectation that mortgage rates are going to fall, but they're going to fall a lot slower than expected. And really, even going into 2026, the expectation by Fannie Mae right now is that mortgage rates by the end of 2026 will be 6.3. So again, not a huge adjustment to where we are today. You're really talking about going from the upper sixes to the lower sixes in about a 2-year period, which is pretty crazy and pretty slow. So in terms of home prices, because again, this mortgage rates and home prices is really the foundation of current market conditions. So when you look at home prices overall, they're still very elevated. So last year, according to Redfin, January 2025, January 2024, we saw home prices increase by 4%. So when you have a market with high mortgage rates and high home prices, that typically leads to, in general, a slower market, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, for sure. It is definitely a little disappointing to see these mortgage rate forecasts because I feel like it's been like 3 years of everybody like waiting for the rates to drop. And even though they're not above 7 now, which we saw
a couple weeks ago, honestly.
Or even closer to 8, like back in 2023. So I mean, they're a little bit. It just feels like it's really stagnant. You know, it's like you get a little relief for a couple weeks, and then it's just kind of right back at it. So I feel like it's not what people are hoping for. I feel like we talk to a lot of people that are like, I'm just gonna keep my house because I had like a 2% interest rate during COVID. I'm just gonna wait till that happens again. And short of another pandemic happening, I don't think that's gonna happen again. So I think we just kind of have to get used to like this like 6-ish mortgage rate average being like the normal for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely.
And with all of those higher prices, higher interest rate, that obviously, you know, with basic supply and demand gives you a little less on the buyer demand side. You know, things just continuing to feel unaffordable for especially like a first time home buyer or someone that's not in like a dual income household situation. You know, you have a little less buyer demand. With that being said, the better news of less of the buyer demand is there is some rising inventory, which has been good because the last few years we've had so little inventory on the market. So we're about 27% higher nationally on inventory than we were at the same time last year.
Yeah, and which is obviously a large increase and a really welcome increase nationally. However, though, you have to kind of put that in perspective because when you look at pre-pandemic inventory levels, there's still only 4 states in the entire country that are above pre-pandemic level inventory. So that means there's 46 states who are still below where they were pre-pandemic in terms of inventory goes. Those states, if I remember off the top of my head, I know Florida's one, Texas is one, I think Colorado's one, and I think Tennessee is the other. Those are the 4 states that are seeing inventory levels above where they were. So there's still a ton of room left for improvement. And local data is going to share some pretty interesting facts, and we'll get into that next.
By the way, if you are looking to make a move into the Raleigh-Durham area, we are real estate agents here. We'd love for you to reach out, and our contact info is below. We'd also love for you to leave a comment below, like the video, and subscribe so you can get updates when we post new videos on a weekly basis. All right, so like we are seeing nationally, we said there was about a 27% increase in inventory nationally, and ironically, it's been exactly the same in the
crazy,
triangle market.
honestly.
It's really funny that
Yeah.
it's like not 26, not 20, exactly 27% over the last year here in the triangle. And the triangle our MLS does cover like a pretty large amount of space and places that you might not really think of as like the triangle. So if you were more curious about like very much more like just Wake County, Durham County, Orange County, like our main hubs, we still have seen a decent inventory increase in those areas as well. In Wake County, we were about 36% higher, Durham County about 32% higher, and Orange County about 14% higher than we were this same time last year. So we are seeing some growing inventory, which is definitely a welcome thing. And it's interesting to see like how much different it is in Wake County than in like Orange County, which is Hillsborough and Chapel Hill. And that does make sense because I do feel like when we have clients looking in Orange County, especially like the Chapel Hill region, that tends to be the most competitive market still. Definitely you can feel that like lack of inventory there compared to like Wake County.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we are seeing like on the national level, on the local level, we're seeing an increase in inventory, which is a really good thing. We want to see inventory normalize to where it was pre-pandemic levels. We really just want to see a regular and normal housing market return, which we have not seen in several years. But there's a catch to all this because obviously those are really large increases on the inventory front. But if you break areas down, I'm only going to give two examples here, but if you break areas down and you look at, okay, what was for sale, how many homes were for sale in February of 2019 versus February of 2025. So 2019 is obviously the pre-pandemic year, and then 2025 is obviously this year. But so Fuquay, for example, there were 302 homes for sale in Fuquay. 303 homes for sale. There's a lot of numbers in this, so we have to like look at it. 303 homes for sale in February of 2019. There's 350 homes for sale currently, February of 2025. And so that is, Fuquay has now reached above pre-pandemic inventory levels, which is really good. But here's an interesting one, Cary. Cary had 502 homes for sale in February 2019 and 184 homes for sale in February 2025. So you're talking literally not even half of what the inventory was in 2019. So far off from where we were pre-pandemic levels. And that is why in some markets in our area, Cary's one of those markets where you see enormous amounts of competition to get into those markets, where maybe in other markets you're not seeing as much competition. And so you can look at like the triangle wide, so to speak, and be like, oh, we're seeing a 27% increase in inventory. But when you really like niche it down and you look at the local level of what was for sale pre-pandemic versus what's for sale now, some areas have improved beyond that, but other areas aren't even remotely close. And those are the areas where you're going to see enormous amounts of competition. And really, those are the areas where we want to see inventory improve the most over the next several years.
Right, and it'll be interesting to see if it does, because some of these areas where the inventory has improved, it's been majorly just because these are areas of the triangle that have been like huge new construction hubs, like Fuquay or Wake Forest or Wendell, Clayton, areas like that where you drive around and it's just like, is anything that was here today here 10 years ago? Because I feel like probably like 80% of it wasn't even here just 10 years ago. Whereas in Cary, that was already a very established community, and more and more people were relocating here during the pandemic that were working remotely, and Cary just has a really great reputation. So you have this area where people are, coming in and taking up that resale market, but not a lot of areas to like delve out in new construction in Cary because it's already a very developed area.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what about tariffs? And that's probably why a lot of y'all even clicked on this video to hear about the tariffs. So roughly a third of the lumber used in new construction in the United States comes from Canada. And obviously with the tariffs now put on Canada, there is going to be an impact on the home building process as a result of that. So the chief economist of Realtor.com actually gave two different scenarios of kind of how this could play out. She said either those costs are going to be passed along to the consumer, or maybe some home builders are going to decide to build smaller homes in order to cut the costs and minimize the amount of lumber that's used. Who knows which one will become the most common one, but if those costs are passed along to consumers, the National Association of Home Builders expects roughly $7,500 to $10,000 per house to be added on to the cost. So when you're looking at new construction, and some of this is just hypothetical, like how long will these tariffs last? Are they going to last long enough to have any impact whatsoever? Are they going to be taken off in a few days and have no impact? No one really knows. But at the end of the day, if they do remain, that is essentially what is expected to occur. The realtor, the chief economist for Realtor.com also had a point, which I don't know if I necessarily foresee happening, but essentially she was saying it could have an impact on the resale market as well, basically pushing consumers away from new construction to the resale market. I just don't know if I really foresee that happening in our market. I think the product of resale and new construction tends to be vastly different. Builders have a lot of leverage when it comes to offering things like incentives. The warranties are a big draw for folks here. And so I don't know if in our area, at least, if you'll see a large movement from new construction to resale because of the tariffs, but you may see some price impacts as a result of it.
Yeah, I would agree. In the areas that we have the most new construction, so where we might see this happening more than others would be places like Clayton, Wendell, Fuquay-Varina, Wake Forest, spots like that have just a higher concentration of new construction than like Raleigh and Durham per se. In general, when you're looking in a lot of these, like the resale thing, you know, if it's only $7,000 to $10,000 that might be adding on to a new construction house, you're probably still going to find that to be cheaper than most of the homes on the resale market. A lot of the homes on the resale market do tend to be a little more expensive because a lot of them have larger lots, or there's just, you know, they're just different. Like we said, the products are just so different. So, you know, it's hard to say like, oh yeah, the same person that would be buying a new construction is going to be interested in a resale. That's really not always the case, like Zach mentioned, because a lot of people are drawn to new construction because they want everything to be brand new, or they get
or they like the
buy down,
exactly. They like the incentives.
The incentives that are tied to it, which you're not going to get on the resale market. But the people in the resale market aren't always drawn to the new construction side because they want large yards, or they want, you know, maybe a little more character in the home, or things like that, or just more established trees in the neighborhood and things that you're not going to find in new construction. So they're just such different products. It's hard to say that like, yeah, they're definitely just going to come on over to the resale side. We'll see what happens, but if it's only $7,500 to $10,000 that hypothetically could get added, I don't know that that would really push people over.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, I think you will see an impact from the tariffs if they last long enough, and that's either going to come in the form of price increases for new construction, or it's going to come in the form of just smaller floor plans being rolled out.
Yeah.
All right, so obviously we've kicked out a lot of data in this video, but what are we experiencing on the ground? So in general, this time of year, the spring market, really from like January to May-ish, are typically the hottest times of year and some of the most challenging times to purchase. And it does depend on the market that you're looking in. It depends some on the price point that you're looking in. But I would say in general right now, a lot of our buyers are experiencing competition in the market. So even though inventory is increasing, even though rates are high, even though home prices are at record highs, there is a seasonality to the market, and we are seeing a more competitive market right now. I would anticipate through this year that we would see a similar trend to what we saw last year, which is a decently hot spring and then a rapid cool down in the fall. That's essentially what I'm expecting to see this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the year progresses and if it looks similar to last year, and how all of these new tariffs and things like that might continue to have an impact on the market. So definitely continue to stay tuned. We put out videos like this a lot, so we'll see in the next quarter if our predictions were right or wrong.
Yep. But we are Zach and Cindy Honeycutt, a couple real estate agents in the area. So if you are looking to buy or sell, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can find our contact info below, and you can also find us on Instagram.
Yep, we'd love to have you follow along on Instagram. You can find our account at the Honeycutt Realtors. And if you're interested in food reviews, parks, things going on in the area, you can always follow our secondary account, the RDU Buzz. And we'd love to have you message us there or just follow along.
Yep, we'll see y'all next time.